The bit where they accuse an unnamed member of the royal family. This is the race bombshell that Meghan drops that Harry then talks about. Let's watch.
An unexpected claim has placed Meghan and Harry back in the spotlight once again. A private deal, a sudden revelation, and rising tension have all created new questions about trust and truth. What was really agreed behind closed doors? And why did it cause such a strong reaction from Harry? Join us as we uncover the truth behind this revelation. Meghan's unfiltered past. Before the world saw her as a Duchess, Meghan Markle lived a life shaped by ambition, effort, and a clear desire to succeed. Her early years were built around finding her place in a competitive space, where attention was not easily given and recognition had to be earned. She stepped into Hollywood with hope, taking on roles that allowed her to grow and learn. Each step she took added to her confidence, helping her build an identity that felt independent and strong. Her acting career became the center of her public image. She worked steadily, appearing in projects that slowly brought her into the spotlight. Some roles showed her charm and warmth, while others pushed her into spaces that sparked conversation. These choices helped her stand out, but they also shaped how people viewed her later. What she once saw as part of her journey would later be examined in a very different light, especially by those who valued tradition over change. As her career progressed, Meghan developed a lifestyle that reflected freedom and personal choice. She spoke openly about her ideas, her values, and the way she saw the world. This openness made her relatable to many, but it also created a contrast with more traditional spaces. Her independence became a defining part of who she was, something that would follow her into every new chapter of her life. Alongside her career, her personal life also drew attention. Her first marriage marked a significant moment, one that began with promise but ended in separation. The reasons behind its end were not fully clear to the public, but it left a quiet mark on her story. It became a part of her past that would not simply fade away. For some, it raised questions about stability and long-term commitment, especially when viewed through a more traditional lens. As Meghan's life moved forward, her past remained present in subtle ways. It followed her into new spaces, carried quietly in conversations, and stole private thoughts. Within royal circles, there were early signs of concern. These were not loud or public, but they existed. People began to wonder if her background, her choices, and her independent nature would align with the expectations of a long-standing institution. These concerns did not stop her path, but they created a quiet tension that lingered beneath the surface. Meghan continued to move forward with confidence, stepping into new opportunities and embracing the life she was building. Yet, the question remained, unspoken but present, waiting to be answered over time. Was her past simply a part of her journey, or would it shape how she was seen in the future? A royal divide begins. When Meghan stepped into the royal world, her life changed in ways that were both visible and subtle. The environment she entered was not ordinary. It was structured with care, shaped by long history, and guided by traditions that had been followed for generations. Every movement had meaning. Every public moment carried expectations. Nothing was casual, and nothing was left without purpose. It was a world built on order, where even silence had rules. At the beginning, Meghan approached this new life with curiosity. She observed carefully, learning how things worked and how people moved within this system. There was a learning period where she adjusted to the pace and rhythm of royal duties. Meetings, appearances, and public events all followed patterns that were new to her. She tried to understand what was expected, and she worked to fit into that structure while still holding on to her own sense of identity. However, as time passed, the difference between her previous life and this new one became more noticeable. It was not a sudden change, but something that developed gradually. The way she naturally expressed herself did not always align with the controlled and reserved nature of royal life. Her tone, her decisions, and her approach to certain moments often reflected independence and openness. In contrast, the royal environment valued restraint, careful wording, and traditional ways of handling situations. Because of this, even simple moments began to feel different. A conversation that would normally be easy became more careful. A decision that once felt straightforward now required consideration from multiple perspectives. The pace of life also changed. Everything moved in a slower, more structured way, where timing and presentation mattered as much as the action itself. Over time, Meghan had to adjust how she spoke, how she responded, and how she carried herself in public and private settings. As she continued in this role, the people around her began to notice these differences more clearly. It was not something openly discussed in a loud or direct way. Instead, it appeared in small, quiet moments. A pause in conversation, a change in expression, a carefully chosen response that avoided deeper engagement. These subtle signs did not stand out at first, but they began to build a pattern that could not be ignored. Behind palace doors, conversations started to take place. These were not dramatic or confrontational discussions. They were careful and measured, reflecting concern rather than conflict. The focus of these conversations was often about alignment, how well different approaches fit within the expectations of royal life. Meghan's independent way of thinking and acting was observed closely. While independence was not seen as negative on its own, in this environment, it created questions about consistency and unity. Over time, these small observations began to form a larger picture. The differences were not based on a single moment or event. Instead, they developed slowly through repeated experiences. Each situation added another layer, and together, they created a sense that something was not fully in balance. What once seemed like minor adjustments now felt like part of a growing pattern. As this pattern continued, the atmosphere within the palace also began to change. It was not something that could be easily pointed out, but it could be felt by those who were present. The sense of ease that usually accompanied royal duties started to feel less steady. Interactions became more cautious. Words were chosen with extra care. Even silence carried meaning that was carefully interpreted. Within this environment, Meghan continued to hold on to her sense of self. She carried with her the identity she had built before entering royal life, one shaped by independence, expression, and personal choice. She did not abandon that identity, and it remained a strong part of who she was. At the same time, she was navigating a system that expected uniformity, tradition, and careful restraint. This created an ongoing tension that was not always visible, but always present. The contrast between these two worlds became more defined with each passing moment. One world encouraged personal expression, while the other emphasized structure and consistency. One valued individual voice, while the other prioritized collective image. Living between these two expectations created a space that required constant adjustment and awareness. As the differences continued to grow, they began to shape how situations were understood and responded to. Small disagreements or misunderstandings were no longer seen in isolation. Instead, they were viewed as part of a larger pattern. This added weight to interactions that might otherwise have been simple. The space between expectation and reality slowly widened. In time, what had started as quiet differences developed into a clearer divide. It was no longer just about adjustment, it was about direction. Each side had its own way of seeing things, its own expectations, and its own understanding of how roles should be carried out. The gap between these perspectives became more visible as time went on. Was this divide something that could be understood and managed over time, or had it already started moving toward a separation that could not easily be reversed? The accusations that changed everything. The moment that changed everything did not arrive with noise or warning. It grew slowly, built from quiet tension that had been forming for a long time. What once stayed behind palace walls began to move into the open, where it could no longer be controlled or softened. The calm image that many believed in started to shift, and a new feeling replaced it. It was no longer about small differences. It had become something much deeper. Meghan and Prince Harry stepped forward together, carrying a story that held strong emotion and careful thought. Their decision to speak was not sudden. It came after many moments that had stayed with them, moments that had slowly shaped how they felt. When they finally shared their experience, it was clear that this was not a simple disagreement. It reached into areas that questioned how things worked behind closed doors. Their words carried weight, not just because of what was said, but because of how it was said. There was a sense of honesty that could not be easily dismissed. It reflected feelings that had grown over time, feelings that had not been fully understood or addressed. This gave their message a deeper meaning, one that connected with many who listened closely. As their statement spread, the effect was immediate. The royal family, long seen as a symbol of unity and strength, now faced a different kind of attention. People began to look more carefully, noticing details they may have once ignored. The image that had been steady for so long now felt less certain. Questions began to rise, and answers were not always clear. Inside the palace, the atmosphere changed in quiet but noticeable ways. Conversations became more careful. Movements felt more measured. The ease that once existed was replaced by a sense of caution. Trust, which had already been tested, now faced its greatest challenge. What had once held firm began to weaken under the weight of what had been revealed. The emotional side of the situation became impossible to ignore. This was not only about events or decisions, it was about how those moments were experienced and remembered. The feelings behind the words gave the situation a human depth that reached beyond formal roles. It showed that behind every public image, there were personal stories that carried real impact. As time passed, the divide became clearer. What had started as quiet tension was now fully visible. The distance between both sides grew stronger, shaped by what had been said and what had followed. Each moment added to that distance, making it harder to return to what once felt normal. The connection that had been expected to grow instead moved further apart. For Meghan and Prince Harry, speaking out marked a clear turning point. It gave them a sense of freedom to share their truth, but it also changed their place within the royal structure. There was no longer a space where both sides could remain unchanged. The path ahead had shifted, and it required new decisions and new directions. For the royal family, the moment brought a different kind of challenge. The structure remained in place, but the feeling of unity had been deeply affected. The balance that once seemed natural now required effort to maintain. The situation called for careful handling, yet the impact could not be undone. Could this divide ever find a path toward healing, or had the damage gone too far to be repaired? Separation and reinvention. The decision to step away from royal duties did not happen in a single moment. It came from a long period of thought, shaped by pressure, distance, and the need for change. Meghan and Prince Harry reached a point where staying within the structure no longer felt right for them. The life they had entered with hope now felt too limited, and the path ahead inside the system seemed unclear. Choosing to leave was not simple, but it became necessary for them to move forward. Their separation from the monarchy marked the start of a completely different chapter. The routines they once followed were no longer part of their daily lives. The guidance and support that came from being within the royal system were no longer there. Everything that had once been decided for them now became their responsibility. This shift brought both freedom and challenge, creating a space where they had to define who they were on their own. As they stepped into this new phase, the need for financial independence became clear. Without the structure that once supported them, they had to build a stable foundation for their future. This required careful planning and strong decisions. They began to explore opportunities that aligned with their skills and interests, looking for ways to create a life that could stand on its own. The world they entered was very different from the one they had left behind. It was driven by media, influence, and constant attention. Every move they made was observed, discussed, and interpreted in many ways. This environment offered opportunities, but it also required careful balance. They had to learn how to move within it while staying true to their goals. Their public presence became a key part of this new journey. They began to shape how they were seen, sharing their story in ways that reflected their experiences. This allowed them to connect with a wider audience, creating a space where their voice could be heard beyond royal expectations. It also gave them a sense of control over their narrative, something they had not always felt before. At the same time, their partnership faced new tests. The shift from royal life to independence required both of them to adjust in different ways. Each decision they made carried weight, not just for their future, but for their relationship. They had to remain aligned in their vision, working together to build something that felt stable and meaningful. Beneath the progress they were making, questions quietly remained. Were they moving forward with a shared purpose, or were they simply adapting to the situation they had created? The answer was not always clear. The changes around them were constant, and each new step brought new challenges to face. The life they were building required strength, patience, and understanding. It was no longer guided by tradition, but by choice. This gave them the chance to shape their own direction, but it also placed full responsibility in their hands. Every success and every difficulty became part of their personal journey. As time passed, their new identity began to take form. It was different from what had been expected, yet it reflected the path they had chosen. The separation that once felt uncertain now became a foundation for something new. Still, the process was ongoing, and the future remained open to change. Would their new life bring the clarity they were searching for, or would it reveal deeper challenges still waiting ahead? The deals that built their new empire. The next phase of Meghan and Prince Harry's journey began with clear intention. They were no longer part of the royal structure, and their future now depended on the choices they made. With this freedom came the need to create something lasting. They understood that their voice carried attention, and they chose to use it in ways that could shape their path. This marked the start of a new chapter built on opportunity and careful planning. Their entry into major partnerships came with strong focus. Agreements with well-known companies opened doors that allowed them to step into media and storytelling. These deals were not small steps. They were large moves that placed them in a space where their ideas could reach a wide audience. It was a shift from tradition to influence, from quiet duty to active creation. The partnership with Netflix became a key part of this journey. It offered them the chance to produce content that reflected their perspective. Through this, they could share stories that mattered to them, stories shaped by their experiences and values. This move gave them a platform that extended far beyond what they had known before, allowing them to build a connection with people across different places. At the same time, their work with Spotify added another layer to their growing presence. Audio content allowed them to explore conversations in a different way. It gave them space to express ideas with depth and clarity, reaching listeners who connected with their message. This step showed their willingness to explore different forms of communication, expanding how they engage with the world. Beyond these major deals, they also stepped into speaking engagements. These events placed them in front of audiences where they could share their journey directly. Each appearance carried meaning, offering insight into their experiences and the lessons they had learned. It was another way to strengthen their voice and build a presence that stood on its own. Production projects followed, adding more depth to their work. They were no longer just participants in stories. They became creators, shaping what was told and how it was presented. This level of involvement required careful thought and strong direction. It allowed them to maintain control over their narrative, ensuring that their message remained clear and consistent. Brand partnerships also became part of their new world. These collaborations connected them with organizations that aligned with their values. Each partnership was chosen with care, reflecting the image they wanted to build. It was not just about visibility. It was about creating a sense of purpose in everything they did. With each new deal, their success became more visible. The scale of their ambitions was clear. They were building something that reached beyond simple recognition. They were creating a structure that could support their vision for the future. This required effort, focus, and a willingness to adapt to new challenges. Yet, alongside success came pressure. The expectations placed on them grew with every step they took. Each project had to meet a certain standard. Each decision had to reflect their values, while also meeting the demands of a fast-moving world. Balancing these elements was not easy. It required constant attention and careful choices. Maintaining control over their narrative became one of their most important tasks. In a space where stories could easily be shaped by others, they worked to keep their voice clear. This meant staying involved, staying aware, and staying true to what they wanted to represent. It was a responsibility that required strength and consistency. As their new empire began to take shape, the path ahead remained active and demanding. They had built a foundation, but the work was far from complete. Each step forward brought new opportunities, but also new questions. The balance between growth and stability continued to guide their journey. As they continued to build, one quiet question remained beneath the surface. Would this growing empire bring them closer together, or would the pressure begin to pull them in different directions? The claim that sparks tension. The story took a sudden turn when a new voice entered the space with strong energy. The calm that had been slowly built through careful steps began to shift. Attention moved quickly as Piers Morgan brought forward a claim that felt both unexpected and serious. His words did not come quietly. They carried a sense of urgency that made people pause and listen more closely. The claim itself was not filled with full details, yet it held enough weight to raise concern. It suggested that Meghan may have made a private agreement without Prince Harry fully knowing about it. The idea was simple, but the meaning behind it was not. It touched on trust, something that had already been tested through many challenges. Even without clear proof, the suggestion alone was enough to create tension. As the claim spread, reactions began to form. People who followed their journey started to question what they understood about the couple. Their story had always been presented as one of unity, of standing together through difficult moments. This new idea introduced something different. It placed a small but noticeable doubt into that image. The lack of clear details made the situation more complex. There was no full explanation, no confirmed path that could easily be followed. This left space for speculation, and that space quickly filled with different thoughts. Some believed the claim carried truth, others felt it was incomplete, yet the uncertainty itself became the center of attention. For Meghan and Prince Harry, the timing of the claim added to its impact. They had worked hard to build a life that reflected independence and shared purpose. Their public image showed a partnership based on trust and understanding. Now, that image faced a new kind of challenge, one that came not from past tensions, but from the present. The idea of secrecy became the focus. After everything they had faced together, the thought that something important could be hidden felt significant. It was not just about the agreement itself, it was about what it represented. Trust, once questioned, becomes difficult to fully restore, even when answers are given. Within their circle, the pressure grew quietly. Even without direct confirmation, the presence of the claim created a shift. Small moments began to carry more meaning. Actions that once felt simple now seemed open to interpretation. The balance they had built required more attention, more care, as they moved through this new situation. The public response continued to grow. Conversations spread, each one adding a new layer to the story. The claim became a topic that people returned to, trying to understand its meaning. Without clear answers, the tension remained. It stayed present, shaping how each new development was viewed. At the center of it all was the question of alignment. Meghan and Prince Harry had always been seen as moving forward together, sharing decisions and supporting one another. This claim introduced the possibility of difference, of a step taken without full agreement. Even as a suggestion, it held enough weight to be taken seriously. The challenge they now faced was not only about the claim itself, it was about how they would respond to it, how they would continue to present their unity in a moment filled with doubt. Every choice they made from this point carried importance, shaping how the situation would be understood. The atmosphere around them remained calm on the surface, yet underneath, a quiet tension continued to build. The story had taken a new direction, one that required careful attention and steady focus. The path forward was no longer as clear as it once seemed. Could their bond remain strong under this new pressure? Or would this moment reveal something deeper beneath the surface? Harry's reaction. The tension that had been building for days finally reached its highest point in a private moment away from public view. There were no cameras, no audiences, and no outside voices. It was only Meghan and Prince Harry facing each other in a space that suddenly felt smaller than before. The air between them was heavy, not loud, but deeply unsettled. What had begun as quiet concern now turned into a direct confrontation that could not be avoided. Harry began with a steady but serious tone. He did not rush his words. He chose them carefully, as if trying to hold control over a situation that already felt unstable. He asked about the alleged private agreement, the one that had been spoken about outside their circle. His question was not loud, but it carried weight. It was clear that he needed clarity, not confusion. Meghan listened without interrupting. For a brief moment, the silence between them felt longer than usual. Then she responded. Her explanation was direct and firm. She said the decision had been necessary. According to her, timing and opportunity had played a major role. She explained that waiting or discussing it further would have changed the outcome, and that she felt there was no space for delay. Her words were calm, but they carried a strong sense of finality. She stood by her choice, making it clear that she believed it was the right move at the time. She did not show hesitation in her explanation. Instead, she focused on the urgency she felt in that moment, as if the situation required immediate action rather than shared discussion. But Harry's reaction did not match the calmness of her tone. He remained still for a moment, absorbing what he had just heard. his expression did not change quickly. Instead, it slowly reflected something deeper. It was not anger in its loud form, but something more contained, something that weighed heavily on him. He was trying to process not only the explanation, but also what it meant for their trust. The conversation continued, but the balance had shifted. What was meant to bring understanding began to create more distance. Harry's questions became more focused, trying to reach clarity, while Meghan's responses remained centered on necessity and timing. The difference in perspective became more visible with each exchange. As the discussion grew, so did the emotional strain. The tone between them began to change. It was no longer just about the agreement itself. It was about how decisions were made, and whether those decisions were shared or carried alone. This added a deeper layer to the situation, one that touched the foundation of how they had been working together. Harry's reaction became the most important part of the moment. He did not react with sudden emotion or sharp words. Instead, he showed a controlled response that carried both confusion and concern. His silence at certain points spoke as clearly as his words. It showed that he was thinking deeply, trying to understand how something so significant could have happened without full alignment. Meghan remained firm, but the conversation no longer felt balanced. The space between their viewpoints had become clearer. What one saw as necessary action, the other saw as a lack of shared decision-making. This difference created a visible strain that neither side could easily smooth over in that moment. The argument did not escalate into chaos, but it grew more intense in feeling. Every sentence carried meaning beyond its words. Every pause held more weight than before. It was not about raising voices. It was about what was being revealed underneath the surface of their relationship. As the conversation slowed, a heavy silence settled again. Neither of them rushed to fill it. Harry's expression remained thoughtful, slightly distant, as if he was still processing everything that had just been said. Meghan stood by her position, but the energy in the room had clearly changed. The moment did not bring resolution. Instead, it exposed something deeper that had been forming quietly over time. The trust between them, once assumed to be steady, now faced a test that could not be ignored. What had been seen as a shared path now showed signs of different directions. When the conversation finally paused, there was no clear ending. Only silence remained, filled with unspoken thoughts and unanswered questions. The weight of the exchange stayed in the room long after the words had stopped. And as that silence settled, one final question remained, soft but unavoidable. Was this only a misunderstanding between two perspectives, or had something deeper already begun to change between them without return?